Salutations! Hello! A lot of you guys will already know that I started my dreadlocks while I was still reasonably young, and so I'm often asked whether I'd recommend starting dreadlocks at such a young age. So today, I'll be talking about my high school dreadlock experience. Yay! Okay, so I started my dreadlock journey a few weeks before I turned 15, so while I was still 14 years old and still very much in high school. I'd had long hair the entire time I'd been at that school. The last time I had my hair cut short was the day before I started high school, so while I was 11 years old, I had my hair cut short the day before I started, and so I've had long hair pretty much since I was 11, because I've never had it cut short since. Now the first hurdle with getting dreadlocks while still in high school is often school policy. Now my school did have a uniform. I considered wearing it for filming this video, but I thought, why would I want to put myself through that? Also probably wouldn't fit. But we did have a uniform, and they would call your parents if you came to school in black trousers that looked too much like jeans, or if your black shoes had a logo on or something. However, they did not have a policy regarding hair, so we had kids there with mohawks, proper mohawks with the side shaved and gelled up, and green hair, pink hair, red hair, and there were other dreadheads there. I tried to count, and I think I could count up maybe 5 or 6 different people who had dreadlocks while I was in high school. So I was there for about 7 years, and I can think of at least 5 or 6 of the people that had dreadlocks during that time. So school had no issue with dreadlocks. You just had an issue with everything else. So school had no problem. Other kids, slightly different story. Okay, so I'd had long hair pretty much the entire time I'd been in high school. It had varied in length because I hadn't grown my hair out for the solid 4 years from being 11 till 15, but it had been fairly long, sort of medium length growing out, and by the time I'd got it long enough to start my dreadlocks, my hair length before I started the dreads was like chest length. It was in a ponytail a lot of the time, and it was very long, and it didn't attract all the most positive of attentions. You know, being a guy in high school and having long hair, it's not like the coolest thing. Far as I'm aware. So if you are in high school and you're considering growing dreadlocks and you're growing your hair out for it, you might not find, you know, having long hair in high school the most fun thing. Well, if you're a guy anyway. However, it will thicken your skin, so the not often positive reactions you might get from having long hair and being a guy in high school, those will toughen you up for the similar mixed reactions you get from having dreadlocks later. I started my dreadlocks during a midterm break, and by the time I came back to school, my dreadlocks were still very much big back comb looking. So you can't hide those. That look turns a lot of heads, it gets a lot of attention, and being an awkward high school kid, who would have guessed that I'm an awkward person? Being an awkward, sort of quiet high school kid, having hair that's, you know, is not the most fun thing. You know, sometimes I just want to sort of disappear and let the world pass me by a bit, and with big back comb dreadlocks that's not gonna happen. But you know, I'd gotten used to the sort of mixed reactions I got from having long hair, so the jump from long hair to dreadlocks was not the biggest step. A lot of people often ask, how was it being in high school with dreadlocks, being in high school with young dreadlocks, and I think I'd gotten so used to not being particularly well accepted for having long hair that it wasn't a big noticeable change for me. In some cases, having the dreadlocks was actually better than having the long hair, because dreadlocks are very much a love or hate thing, so whereas the long hair was kind of so-so, no one really makes a big deal, but they generally don't think it's all that great, the dreadlocks kind of made some people really like them and other people hate them, so I did sort of have some nice comments coming from some people that really thought it was a good change and better than the long hair and a cool change, and you know, people liked it. And then, you know, there was the negative comments that are kind of possibly to be expected, and while they were more targeted than when I just had long hair, I just kind of didn't care. Pretty much every myth or misconception regarding dreadlocks did get thrown at me at one point or another. They're dirty, they're full of bugs, they're disgusting, how can you do that, why would you do that, what are you doing to yourself? I think if I'd have started dreadlocks while I was a bit older, I would have kind of gotten past this, and I wouldn't have gotten past it completely, because there are still people that like to inform me of their opinions, you know, whether they're asked or not. But in high school, you know, it's full of high school kids, they're gonna tell you. Kids would stare, teachers would stare. Kids would want to touch them, kids would want to pull them, kids would even want to smell them, because you know, there's people thinking they're disgusting and they smell like, oh, smell your hair, and my hair actually smelled really nice. All of this would of course happen, you know, without permission, they just grab it. Over time, my whole experience kind of blurs. I didn't have the greatest high school experience regardless of dreadlocks. I don't know if you can tell that I'm not all that nostalgic about being in high school. So I think whether I had dreadlocks or not, I don't think I'd be, yay, high school was great, best time of my life. But you know, after a while, it sort of just blurs into the background. Some other person does something that attracts more attention and you kind of finally blend back in and get back on with your life. I would just tie the hair up as best I can, have them back. I wore a lot of headbands when my dreads were younger and shorter. I had a tam as well, and the best thing to do with dreadlocks really is just forget about them. You forget about them, other people forget about them, and the dreadlocks just continue to progress. Everyone's experience is going to be different. Different countries, different environments, different schools, different people, different friends. But as far as my advice goes, based on my own experience, I think going through high school may have been easier without having dreadlocks, I'll say that. But then again, it would have been easier if I didn't have long hair, and it would have been easier if I didn't listen to metal music, and it would have been easier if I didn't play lots of video games. So where do you draw the line? Love it or hate it, your high school experiences are kind of going to shape you for the rest of your life. And while I didn't have the greatest of memories from certain parts of it, and the dreadlocks had very much mixed responses, those experiences have changed me, and I think they've changed me for the better. And I think it's better that I stuck with what I wanted and stayed true to me. Sounds a bit cheesy, but you know, when you look back on it, it would have been quite easy to change myself to fit in with what would have been easiest and most popular, but then I wouldn't have been the same person that I am now, and I'm quite happy with who I am now and where I am now. So do I regret starting dreadlocks while I was still in high school? No. If you're planning on getting dreadlocks while you're still in high school, be prepared for the attention, both good and bad. Don't expect to come in with young dreadlocks and be like the coolest person in school, because for one, people are very polarized when it comes to dreadlocks. They either love them or hate them, and young dreadlocks generally don't look how people would like them to look, so it's gonna make the whole experience even more mixed. So just be prepared for that and set your expectations low, I think, really. And it's a journey, it's a process, it's not instantaneous. Dreadlocks and continue with dreadlocks, you have to be in a position where you know that you can go through the process of letting them mature, which, you know, when you're maturing yourself in high school, it can be kind of turbulent. Would I do it again? If I could go back in time to being 14, would I start dreadlocks again? If you'd have asked me this same question while I was a year or so in, if you'd asked me while I was 15, nearly 16, I would have probably said no. I was very unhappy with the method I used to start my dreadlocks, and I was unhappy with some of the attention I was receiving, and I was not having the best time of my life, and I would have very much, you know, appreciated the ability to just disappear a little bit. The main reason I did stick with them is because I built up to the dreadlocks for so long. It took a long time to convince my parents. I went through a lot of mixed reactions, and I felt that if I did get rid of them, I'd sort of been proven wrong. I was sort of stubborn in that sense that, like, I will keep them. I will prove that it was a good idea and this is me. So in the end, it definitely paid off, and I'm very happy with where I am now. But if you'd asked me during, if you'd have sort of said, hey, you know, you can go back and start over, I might have been tempted. But if I could go back now, knowing what I know now, I would definitely redo what I did. Well, I would use a different method. I would have dreadlocks, but I would not use the same method. I would not do it the same way that I did. I think my priorities are very much different now, and I know not to sort of buy into the whole high school thing. It's unimportant. Time goes by, people grow up, your dreadlocks grow up, everything gets easier. At least in my experience, people become more accepting. It's easier to find people that you fit with better rather than just the small group of people that you happen to be within close proximity to in high school. So my last bit of advice for people who are in a similar situation and considering dreadlocks, be 110% sure it's what you want. If you're still so-so, wait. I would not recommend starting them if you're kind of on the fence. Wait until you're 110% or 120% sure that they're what you want, because you're going to have to be very determined, you're going to have to be driven to get through it, at least if you are in a situation that's somewhat similar to mine. You have to be sort of into them enough to let the negative stuff wash over you and to be unbothered by it. Young dreadlocks are gonna be loose, they're gonna be messy. You have to be committed to them enough to not be bothered by that and just continue on so you can get through it. People are gonna try and pull you down, but you have to rise above. And as time goes by, things get better. It just gets better and better and better. Once they're mature, you don't have to worry about it anymore, and hopefully by the time your dreadlocks are mature, the people that you're surrounded with will be mature enough to not send you any more negative stuff. Outside of high school, there's still going to be very much mixed reactions regarding dreadlocks. There's still a very polarizing hairstyle. It's, you know, more than a hairstyle, but I'm not really sure what to call them, but it's always going to be polarizing. But I will say that the sort of social soup that is high school can really test you. There we go, that was my high school dreadlock experience. I hope that it was helpful to some of you out there, informative to others. Maybe some of you liked reliving some of my high school memories. I'm not so sure. If you like this video, you can click the like button. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, you can of course subscribe. If you're looking for dreadlocks tips, help, advice, guides, information, videos, including this one, you can find all my stuff on lazydreads.com. I'd like to thank you guys for watching through this. I hope to see you again soon. Farewell.